I'm Adrian, and it's time to look at another song in my Les Paul themed series of lessons. Today I'm looking at Penetration by Iggy and the Stooges. Now, I realise that I've already looked at 2 tracks from the Raw Power album previously, and usually I hate to repeat myself too much, but I couldn't resist this one. It's another amazing track from one of my favourite albums, with some amazing guitar playing from one of my favourite players, Mr. James Williamson. So I'm going to try and keep this fairly brief. In fact, the song is a very simple one. It's basically just one riff repeated over and over for 3.5 minutes. And the reason it works is because the riff is such a great one and because the overall mood of the track is so fantastic. So grab your Les Paul if you have one. Of course, you don't have to play this one on a Les Paul. You can play it on any guitar you like. I'm just going to bring the camera a bit closer and I'll take you through how to play the song. So as I said, this one is all about the riff, so I'm obviously going to focus mainly on that. Also want to talk a little bit about some of the lead guitar. There are some nice little fills in there. There's quite a bit of soloing towards the end of the track, but it's kind of wild, loosely played soloing. In fact, you can hear 2 or 3 layers of solos being played simultaneously, so it's impossible to figure out exactly what's going on, and I don't think it's the kind of solo that you want to learn note for note particularly, but I'm just going to go through and try and highlight some of my favourite bits there. But let's kick off with this riff, and the first thing you're going to need is a capo on your guitar at the 3rd fret, and the song is loosely in the key of E minor, so I'm going to say E minor, even though with the capo it's technically speaking in G minor, but we're the chords outlined by this riff are kind of E minor, G, and then A. So I suppose in a sense it's a kind of E Dorian mode kind of sound. For you theory nerds might be interested in that, but it's not something you really need to worry about too much. So the riff, just remind you how it goes. We've got 2, 3, 4. Amazing riff, this one, and we're starting off by just playing the low E string twice, and then we've got a hammer on, and it's an open D string, and I'm hammering down with my 2nd finger to the 2nd fret relative to the capo. And an interesting detail that I didn't pick up on before is that when you hammer down, you're also striking the low E string one more time, like that. So it's one of those details I only really picked up on when I was trying to get this together for the purposes of making this video. I do try and make things as accurate as I possibly can, otherwise there's always going to be someone moaning in the comments going, "Oh, you didn't get that bit right, mate." And of course I love those comments. Really, it keeps me on my toes. But this is one of the details that I didn't pick up on previously, and I think it's quite an important one as well. So we're hammering on, and we're also plucking that low E string. It's a little bit counterintuitive because you're hammering down and you're picking at the same time, so it might take a little bit of practice, but we do that, and then we're playing the low E one more time, and then we've got a double stop, which is an open D and G, and then the low E 2 more times. That's the first bar of the riff. And then we carry on with this. So we've got exactly that same hammer on move. So open D, hammer on, playing the low E, one more low E, and then this time we've got an open D, low E twice, 2nd fret on the A string, and a low E. If I put those 2 bars together, we've got 2, 3, 4. The 3rd bar is very similar to the 1st bar, except instead of that D and G double stop, we're playing just an open D string. In fact, sometimes it seems to be a D and an open A string. You can play this fairly loosely here. You don't need to be super precise, but it's... And then we've got this lovely chordal thing. So we're we're starting with this shape here. It's kind of a G chord, I suppose. We've got 2nd fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the low E string, and then we're playing the A string again, and then an open D. So you want all of this to ring together, so just hold down that little chord shape, and we're just playing the A string, low E string, A string, D string. Then move that shape 2 frets higher, and we're just going down through the strings, so 6, 5, 4 and 3. And that's the entire riff, so just slowly for you. Just a quick word on the picking. I think I'm playing nearly all of that just with downstrokes. Maybe just on that last chord bit, I've just got a couple of upstrokes in there. So it's probably down, 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 up, down, 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 up. All of the rest of it, I think, works well with downstrokes. So that's the riff then. I just want to talk briefly about some of the lead guitar stuff. Now there's a nice little fill which is sometimes played in the middle of the riff, and that goes something like this. It's a little bit hard to hear exactly what's going on because it's quite a messy and chaotic recording, but it's something like this. We've got... So we're starting off the riff as we normally do. And then here, it's kind of E minor pentatonic based stuff here. Technically it's G minor, but I'm going to talk about this like it's E minor. We've got a pull off from 3 to 0 on the B string, open G string, and then we're playing 3 to 0 on the B, and then we've got a bend and a release at the 2nd fret on the G, pulling off to the open G string, and then we've just got 2, 2, 0, 2 on the G string. And in time it's... There's another nice fill which I played at the start of this video, and that goes something like this. And that's coming in the 3rd bar of the riff. It's really just a very simple bend at the 2nd fret on the G string. And then we're into the chord thing. Let me just highlight some of my favourite lead guitar things. There's kind of a fast riff which is something like this. And that's just pull-offs on the high E and B string. So 3rd fret, pulling off to the open string, and then the same thing on the B. And just playing that nice and fast. Now the soloing towards the end of the tune is really lots of minor pentatonic based stuff. So it's E minor pentatonic or G minor pentatonic if you want to think of it like that. So there's lots of stuff played in the open position. He's moving his way up the neck to some of the other positions as well. There's a lick based around the 12th fret, the actual 12th fret. That kind of thing. Lots of these big bends, so that the 15th fret on the G string, There's a passage of bends like this. Again, it's a kind of pentatonic based bend. So here I'm bending at the 13th fret on the B whilst holding down the 13th fret on the top string as well. So those are a few ideas that you can play around with. I don't think you need to be too fussy or too precise with any of this stuff. Just play around, minor pentatonic stuff, and go for it. So for those of you that are interested, the gear I'm using to make this video, and I'm sure I remember reading a while back that James Williamson mainly used a Les Paul into an AC30 when he was recording Raw Power, and I'm fortunate enough to be using exactly that today. I've got my Les Paul here, which is an R9 Les Paul from 2008, I think, and from that I'm going into my Vox AC30, which is a 90s AC30 reissue. The distortion is coming from a Proco Rat distortion pedal. Got that sometime in the 1990s. So that's Penetration. I hope you have lots of fun learning to play this song. The tab for this one is going to be up on my Patreon page. And incidentally, big thank you to all my patrons. That's been going really well lately, and it really is what makes it possible for me to carry on making these videos. So thanks for that. Thanks to everybody for watching this video, and I shall see you next time. Bye bye.